Andrew Plitt here with andrewplitt.com. This is the first video in a series that's going to be looking at silk reeling in Tai Chi. We're going to be talking about what it is, how you practice it, and at the end of this series, after we get through kind of the concepts of it, I'm going to teach you how to do several different silk reeling exercises and then how to incorporate that into your Tai Chi practice. So I'm hoping this will be a very informative series for you all. One of the reasons that I'm making this series is I feel like silk reeling is something that is not explained well very often. And there's still a lot of confusion about what it is, how it's supposed to be incorporated into training. I've seen a lot of videos out there that are teaching what should be silk reeling, but are leaving out a lot of the important concepts and talking more about exercises to teach silk reeling rather than the concept that should be contained within the exercise that turns it into silk reeling. So hopefully this series will make sense of what silk reeling is, and it will make it more accessible to everyone watching. So let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you who are not familiar with the term silk reeling, you may be wondering what it is and why it's important. And if I was just to describe it really briefly, I would say that silk reeling energy or silk reeling motion is really just spiral motion. And incorporating that into your body is incorporating silk reeling into your motion. And the reason why it's important for Tai Chi training is that without silk reeling, there is no Tai Chi. And this is really the foundational type of motion that you do in Tai Chi training. And so if you're wanting to practice Tai Chi and you're wanting to get the maximum benefit and the maximum use of your Tai Chi training, you really need to understand silk reeling, and you need to understand how to incorporate it into your Tai Chi training. So the first thing we're going to get into is a little bit of terminology. Silk reeling in Mandarin is Qianzi. What follows this kind of is two different things. Sometimes it's referred to as Qianzi Jin, and sometimes it's referred to as Gong. And these are both different and not different at the same time. Qianzi Jin is sort of the energy of silk reeling. This is the concept, the internal structure framework, the internal motion, basically the internal aspects of what Qianzi is. This is what has to be present within you in order to do Qianzi Gong. Now, Qianzi Gong is just basically exercises practicing silk reeling. Typically, when someone says Qianzi Gong, what they're referring to is a set of exercises that are just simple repetitive motions that allow you to focus on just the silk reeling aspect of the movements, but silk reeling should be present in all of the Tai Chi form practice. So really, a Tai Chi form is Qianzi Gong. But the thing is, applying it in the wide array of movements and variations of movements that are in each form can be kind of daunting and a little bit distracting while you're learning the form. And there's a lot going on at once with that. So simplify, take out a couple movements or a single movement, repeat it over and over, focus on just the Qianzi or the silk reeling aspect of that. And that is Qianzi Gong. So typically it's referring to the Qianzi Gong, typically referring to a single repetitive exercise, but really refers to all of Tai Chi form practice and even push hands really if you're doing it correctly. Now, just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to refer to it as silk reeling. Now, as far as we know, the first time the term silk reeling was used in reference to Tai Chi training was in Chen Xin's book, The Illustrated Canon of Tai Chi. Now, that doesn't mean that the concept wasn't like the actual physical energetic component of Tai Chi wasn't already present before it was written down and described as silk reeling. But the phrase itself, or the term silk reeling, Qianzi Jin, was first written down in this book, as far as we know. Now, what I've included here and what you're looking at on the screen is two images from that book, which basically are describing, these two here, the movement of silk reeling energy through the body. And as you can see from these illustrations, the explanation for what silk reeling is, being either coiling or spiraling motion, is quite clear in these pictures. However, what's shown here is more of a sort of rough estimate of how this works in the body. So what you're looking at here, these pictures are images taken from Chen Xin's book, The Illustrated Canon of Tai Chi. And basically, he goes in detail in that book about what silk reeling is, how important it is to Tai Chi, and he's the one who actually makes the statement that Tai Chi practice is silk reeling training, or silk reeling training is Tai Chi practice. Like, these two can't be separated. And the idea that Tai Chi must have silk reeling for it to be Tai Chi. So you can see from these pictures that there are these spirals going through the body, down through the legs, through the arms, and even wrapping around. You can see them crossing the back here. and coming across the front here. So you have these spirals going through the body, and that's nice. That's all fine and good. These illustrations really are kind of vague in how to apply or how to use silk rolling in your practice. So I wanted to start with these since this is kind of the original illustration of silk rolling, and then build on this idea and kind of see how this can be incorporated into our actual training rather than just having a vague intellectual idea of what it should be based on images like this and vague descriptions like, well, silk rolling is just spiral motion through your body. So let's kind of dissect what that actually means, the spiral motion, how it can be incorporated into your body, and build a good foundation so that when we get to the practice portion of this series, they'll actually understand what we're doing with the exercises. So the first thing I want to talk about is the source of motion in Tai Chi. And I've mentioned this many times in many other basics videos for either Tai Chi or Qigong training. And the source of your motion is, of course, your lower dantian. So lower dantian being in this general area here, or in here at the center of the body. If you need to understand where it is located, go to the Qigong Basics series and look at video number 10 of that series, and I go into great detail there. So I'm not going to repeat all of that in this video. If you don't understand where the dantian is located, how to locate it, and then the role that it plays in your Tai Chi training or Qigong training, I would recommend going back to that video. But I want to start this discussion by saying that the dantian is, of course, the source of motion in Tai Chi training, and it's the source of motion in silk reeling. Now, the idea is starting the motion from the lower dantian. You have a spiral that can go up the body, you have a spiral that can go down the arms, and you have a spiral that can go down the legs. You also have spiraling that can come in the arms, spiraling that can come up the legs, and a spiraling within the body that allows you to move side to side in rotational motion. So we're going to dissect that a little bit now. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is inward and outward spiraling in Tai Chi in silk reeling. So the first kind of spiral is a shun spiral, and this is the outward or clockwise or yang type of, and here I mean yang as in yin yang, not yang as in style of Tai Chi, yang style type of motion. So this is your shun motion. So this is kind of outward expression. Now, when I say outward, it's that the spiral is going outward through the arm. It's considered as an outward spiral, but it doesn't necessarily refer to the motion of the arm going away from the body or toward the body. Typically, it corresponds to, if you're doing this outward spiral, your arm is usually going away from the body, but not always. So really, instead of thinking about outward and inward as being outward, as in my hand starts back here closer to me and then gets further away, think of it as outward as my hand is turning a specific direction. The second type of motion is an inward spiral, and that is your knee spiral. So that is inward, it's counterclockwise, and this is more your yin, inward, drawing in type of spiral. So let's talk about how we differentiate these two. We're going to start with shun, and I'm going to switch over to a different color so that we can relate to this more specifically. So shun outward, the way that this is described is that the thumb is leading the spiral like toward the center of the hand. So if I have my hand here, if I turn it this way, the pinky side is coming in toward the center. If I turn it the other way, the thumb is going toward the center, right? And it's that thumb side going toward the center that is your shun, or what I'll just refer to as an outward spiral. So this is the outward clockwise yang spiral, thumb toward center. And so the opposite of that, of course, the knee spiral. This is inward. And with this one, the pinky, or your fifth digit, is going toward the center. So anytime you have a spiraling motion where this is happening, right? The pinky is going toward the center of the palm, the arm is rotating this way. That is your knee spiral, or your inward spiral. Anytime the thumb is going toward the center, you have this outward spiral. That is your shun spiral, or your outward spiral here. So let's think about a couple of movements where this would be the case. Think about wave hands like clouds. As your hand's coming across, you are rotating it out so that the palm's going away from you. But what's happening here is the thumb is going toward the center of the hand. So that's an outward spiral. If we think about snake creeps down in yang style, as the hand is coming in, before it goes down, it's doing an inward spiral. That pinky is going toward the center of the palm, it's doing this, and then you continue through the motion, turns into an outward spiral as it goes down. So just the simplest way of thinking of it is how the hand is rotating. Now, this is also true of the feet, but it's a little bit different. Now, if we're talking about the feet, what is happening here? Let's look at this guy's leg here. So we're going to talk about the outward spiral.